Hey everyone, welcome back to Claydesk. If you're like 99% of developers out there, you're probably using the tools like ChatGPT for coding. But I'm here to tell you that there's a huge leap between your run-of-the-mill vanilla ChatGPT and what I'm about to show you today. So we're talking about and taking large language models or LLMs and putting them on pure, unadulterated steroids, right? Like using something that's called Model Context Protocol or MCP. Now, this isn't just about better prompts, it's about fundamentally changing how LLMs interact with the world. So, let's talk about the significant development in AI that's transforming how large language models interact with the real world, the Model Context Protocol, or known as MCP. And I'm also going to talk about the differences between MCP versus API and why it is a game changer and what to look out for, and some of the problems or issues or the key differences between the two as well. So let's dive right in. For a long time, LLMs were quite limited in their capabilities. For example, initially models like GPT-2 and early GPT-3 were primarily text prediction engines. Now, they could generate human-like text with a prompt, but they were inherently static, unable to update their knowledge in real time or interact with external environments. Their utility was bound by their training data and what could fit into a fixed length prompt. So let's quickly trace the journey first of LLMs to understand why MCP is so revolutionary and is developed by Anthropic. So the early GPT-2, GPT-3, like I mentioned, were text prediction engines. They simply generated human-like text responses for a prompt, but were inherently static, right? So the knowledge was bound by the training data, and of course, there were some limitations. For instance, content that could be embedded in a fixed length prompt. Now, they couldn't update their knowledge or interact with external environments, right? So they were static. You just had to fish data from the existing training sets. Now, in context learning, to overcome some limitations, what developers have started doing is stuffing the model's context window with task-specific information, examples, and instructions. Now, what this did was this helped with zero-shot or few-shot tasks. For example, these are the prompt types, essentially tricking it into thinking the input prompt was part of his training distribution. However, this simply lacked scalability and modularity. So models could not autonomously seek any new or additional context, or even execute tasks or retrieve any external knowledge by themselves or dynamically. Now, as far as the retrieval augmented generation is concerned, which is known as RAG, this was a big step forward. Now, what RAG did was it combined LLMs with information retrieval systems, allowing the model to retrieve relevant documents from external knowledge bases, right? Often using semantic search with vector databases. That's what RAG does. Now, and it also incorporates that information into a generation process. Now, RAG helped basically bridge the knowledge gap between model pre-training and current information, and became basically the staple for building AI applications needing up-to-date or domain-specific information. So, but there's a limitation to RAG also, right? And here's the kicker, by the way. So RAG was fundamentally read-only. So the models could observe data, but could not interact with it. It couldn't perform transactions. For instance, they couldn't perform query APIs or affect stateful systems in the world. Now, the tools that augment these agents. This led, of course, to the next leap, which is tool-augmented agents. Now, these allowed LLMs to go beyond passive retrieval and into action execution. For example, invoking external APIs, invoking databases, or other software tools dynamically during a conversation. But there's still a problem. Guess what? This capability turned or required new infrastructure and design patterns to ensure consistency, security, developer ergonomics. So, before MCP, integrating LLMs with external systems was a complex endeavor, leading to a proliferation of many solutions that were difficult to maintain and scale. That's why MCP was developed in the first place. So, what is MCP? Very briefly, it's the groundbreaking architecture developed by Anthropic, like I mentioned earlier, the company behind Claude. It's an open protocol that standardizes how applications provide context to LLMs. So think of MCP as like a USB port for an AI application. It's just that simple, right? So just as USB-C standardizes connecting devices to peripherals, MCP provides a standardized way to connect to AI models to different data sources and tools. So now you know what MCP is. Let me talk about how it works briefly and also the core benefits, and then I'll talk about the APIs as well. So basically MCP it allows LLMs to interact with external systems like tools, data, and APIs in a structured manner and declarative manner. And with API, we have static APIs, right? With MCP, it's dynamic, so it can connect to many other sources as well. So MCP simply abstracts the interface between LLMs and its tool use context, allowing models to request capabilities or data they don't have internally. Now, while enabling tool providers to expose their capabilities safely and scalably. But what is the real benefit of MCP anyways? So this basically fundamentally turns the LLM into a reasoning engine and orchestrator. So now it's giving you much more. It becomes capable of performing multi-step operations like database queries, code execution, or even user-specific recommendations. And LLMs no longer rely solely on pre-training or retrieval, but they can dynamically now extend their abilities through a secure interface. So MCP solves this critical pain point, basically knowledge staleness, limited context, and the inability to act. So it solves all of these issues for us. That's why it's being massively adopted. Now, this isn't some niche tech, right? MCP is getting tremendous adoption as we speak. And of course, for example, the architecture of MCP, how to set up the MCP server, and people are actually using it. Google is using it, Microsoft, and other enterprise companies are all deploying MCP servers. So, for example, let's talk about briefly the architecture of MCP. There's an MCP host, there's a client, and there's a server. It works on a client-server model. So, for example, the MCP host is basically a container environment running the LLM or integrating it into a large software system. So think of this as an orchestrator. So it manages clients, routes requests between the LLMs and the outside world, and enforces security. So that's what the host does. Now, as far as the client is concerned, the client acts as a translation layer, right? So it enables the LLM via the host to interact with an external system in a normalized and schema-driven manner. So basically it translates LLM intents, which is often JSON requests, into structured calls to the underlying MCP server, and the clients maintain one-to-one connections with the MCP servers. So we have the host down, we have the client down. Now is the MCP server. What is this? So this is the external tool or service the model is trying to access. So the server implements the MCP spec and exposes a set of capabilities using a structured JSON schemas. Now, some of the capabilities, you can think of them as including resources, which are retrievable objects like files or documents. In tools, you can perform actions or make changes. And these are the most important, by the way, allowing the LLMs to perform actions like buy an item on your website or create a Postgres database. And the prompts you can provide are, for example, reusable LLM called templates. So communication between the client and server happens via two main methods. First is the standard I/O, which is used for local tools or CLI style utilities. So it's a very fast and no network latency and is simple to implement. It's a great for local dev tools or sandbox plugins. And the next is, of course, HTTP and server sent events, SSE, which is used for remote or network tools, often in the cloud or containerized environments. So basically, the client sends the HTTP post requests and the server streams responses back using SSE. And here, the server sent events, or the SSE, is crucial because it allows incremental or streaming results like log tails or async job status, and basically enables long-lived interactions without blocking. And MCP also has important protocol design principles, so declarative and self-describing. So MCP servers are introspectable. For example, what that means is they declare what resources, tools, and prompts they expose, enabling dynamic discovery and adapting reasoning by the model itself. So similar to, of course, OpenAI or GraphQL's introspection. Now, as far as the extensibility and modularity is concerned, so anyone can write a conforming MCP server for any tool or API. An LLM can interact with dozens of such tools simultaneously, and new tools can be hot plugged without retraining or reconfiguring the model itself. And that's really the power of MCP. So in practice, the LLM uses MCP to discover tools dynamically via introspection, then requests operations in structured formats, and finally processes the response from tools as part of the reasoning loop. Now, with all that said, there's some problems also that we need to kind of think of, right? So the first problem that is the extensive APIs and too many tools lead to poor LLM performance. And that's common because typically in an enterprise organization, we have tons and hundreds of APIs endpoints, right? So if you tell, for example, MCP to go out there and use my organization, which has multiple APIs, it's not going to know what to use. For example, it may hallucinate, right? And that's a common problem. So we need to be very specific in terms of what to tell MCP, what to allow MCP, or which API to make sure that MCP uses that API. So we need to define or detailed out descriptions for that MCP server to act, right? So that's pretty much the first issue. The second issue is that API descriptions are written for humans, not LLMs. So API endpoints are written for humans who can, for example, Google things and can reason about things. Now, LLMs need to be a lot more direct with them. They need examples much more than humans do. Okay, so that's another area that you need to watch out for. The third problem is that APIs are for low-level resource management. LLMs need tasks and actions. So there's a big key difference right here because most APIs are designed, of course, for developers to use those APIs for automation, right? Basically a low-level resource management. Now that's not what LLMs need from an API. LLM needs to perform some tasks or actions like go build an SQL server for me, for example, right? So they're more human-like. So that's another issue that we need to cater to. And then problem number 4 is missing out on LLM specific potential. So for example, if you just expose your API, you're missing out on the potential to create many more interesting things, right? So that's another area that you need to kind of cater to and make sure that that is also adhered to. So for example, the tool stage, the migration of a temporary branch, then tells the LLM to go and test the migration before you commit it. So make sure when you're creating these MCP servers, you're also testing it before actually getting things into production. All right, so these are some of the areas, concerns that you need to look out for as we speak. There's some problems that I've mentioned, and hopefully now you understand why MCP is a game changer and why your API isn't enough, and of course the differences between the two, the issues that you need to make sure you watch out for when you're creating your MCP server. So mastering MCP is, of course, rapidly becoming an essential skill for developers and professionals and consultants in today's technological landscape, right? So understanding and effectively implementing this protocol will definitely equip you with building the next generation of intelligent, action-oriented AI applications. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any comments, so comment down below. Make sure you give it a like, and of course, hit that bell notification so you stay current with the latest tech trends and of course full courses right here at Claydesk. My name is Syed. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.